you still hold 7 regular season records and 7 playoff records for this organization. Now, between you and me, I won't tell anybody. When you're coaching the DBs now, do you still want to hold on to those records, or you do want them to be broken by somebody?
Nah, they always meant to be broken, my man. So like, I'm coaching these boys to be better than me. I'm just trying to put them in teach them the right technique so they could go make the plays and let their athletic abilities take them as far as they'll let them, man. To be honest, if I wanted them to be broken, I'll still be playing.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me?
I
No
gotcha.
matter the money, no matter the money, no nothing. So it's up there for grabs now, my man.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello and welcome into Loftside Bantr. On today's show, we get into our Massachusetts Pirates weekly conversation, and I can safely say we have a legend as far as records that he holds and everything else. His name is Aairon Maxey-Penton. He is the defensive backs coach currently for the team, but he was a player for them, and like I said, he holds several records for the Massachusetts Pirates. Outside of that interview, we're going to look at a few things in the world of sports. We're going to look at a few moves that were done in the NBA, NHL, and NFL. Yep, that's right. I said NFL. Football's right around the corner. We actually have a game this month. So all you football fans, it's back. It's preseason, but it's back. And then I guess outside of that, we just want to wish everyone a happy Bobby Bonilla Day. Sports fans will know what that means. We'll go over that a little bit later, so that way everybody kind of gets filled in on what Bobby Bonilla Day is. So let's get it over to the countdown and get this show started.
We are on in 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to Loftside Bantr. On today's episode, we go over some NHL, NBA, and NFL moves. We take a look at Bobby Bonilla Day, which is very fun for everybody who's a big baseball fan and knows what that is. We'll get into all that later on. We talk to Massachusetts Pirates legend Aairon Maxey-Penton. He had some amazing moments throughout their title win in 2021, and we're going to have him here to talk to us today. Pretty packed show. I'm probably going to start with the interview just to get that going, so that way we can cover all that different stuff. A few shows that will drop at the beginning of next week. We might do a dual episode coming out. We'll take a look at, we'll do a coffee conversation with the Bruins brothers, Dave and Daniel, and we will go over kind of the moves that were made, good or bad. I'd love to go into it more, but the show is going to be really good for that. So we'll do something like that, and then we'll take a look at the NBA as a whole with Dan and Ian. So we'll kind of do those two kind of early next week, and then we'll get into the stuff that's coming up in sports. Obviously, once kind of the NBA and NHL kind of die down, it's NFL time, so it's a little bit slower now. So trying to find the stuff to talk about and everything else like that. But we'll go over some of that stuff, and then like I've always said, Loftside Bantr is on Podbean now, so it's on Apple, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify. Podbean has its own kind of platform for it to go on now. This episode was started just before the last one, where we kind of did a test with the video. You'll see in YouTube, you'll see there's a test video there. The next few ones have also started without video. So now that I kind of have that all kind of good to go, we're going to start doing video for every episode, probably within the next 4 or 5 episodes. So I thank everybody for their patience. Again, big things happening here. And then we're always looking for sponsors. We're looking for reads to do stuff like that. We're looking for a lot of different stuff. So if anybody knows anybody that wants to advertise, that wants to do all those things, again, I'm here. LoftsideBantr@gmail.com. That's LoftsideBantr@gmail.com. www.loftsidebanter.com. all of the fun things that I tell you and I throw out there. And then we're going to try to start to do a series with the NFL and different teams, looking at one team a week or one team an episode or whatever the case may be. And we'll kind of look at the moves that have been made and everything else. So we'll get you kind of geared up for football season. And then Marina and I have talked to have them come back on for whatever team she wants to promote and whatever team she wants to talk about or any subject she wants to talk about. So all that stuff's coming up. But with that, let's get you right over to the interview with Aairon Maxey-Penton. Hello and welcome back into Loftside Bantr. Today I have a Massachusetts Pirates legend that holds quite a few records for the franchise. He's now back as a defensive assistant on the coaching staff. It's Aairon Maxey-Penton. How are you today, sir?
How you doing? I'm doing good.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm doing wonderful as well. So you were actually part of the championship team back in 2021. What do you remember most about that run?
Really, just being with a great group of guys, and we all had a chip on our shoulder that we had to make the IFL our NFL, and that's just how we went about it every week, and it was just exciting to play week by week with those group of guys, and how determined it was to win a championship.
Now, how is the transition from playing for the Pirates to now becoming a coach on the sideline? What's the bigger kind of differences, or what did you have to do to kind of transition into that role?
Really just having to play the game through the boys now, like just even with preparing them with film and just the different techniques and everything, it's just still, when it's game time, it's nothing too much that I could do. Just have to prepare them, the best I can to be ready on game day.
Now, do you primarily coach with the defensive backs, or do you kind of help out all around the whole defense?
I'm primarily with the defensive backs, but I do help all around where needed.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is the biggest? What is the biggest thing you have to teach somebody coming into the indoor game from a typical 11-on-11, whereas this is obviously 8-on-8, shorter field and stuff like that? What's the main thing that you've had to teach some newcomers into this game?
Really just with it being small and smaller than a, outdoor game, is use that to your advantage, you know. This game wants to allow the receivers to have space and get space with the high motion,
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, it's still no space,
Right.
because you're indoor. They can't run out of the arena. So, just use that to your advantage and try to challenge the receivers as much as possible with the small field.
Gotcha. Now, can you take us through your football journey? Kind of, you grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, if I'm not mistaken. You attended the University of Missouri, and what led to you falling in love with the game of football, and where did this kind of take you?
So just been playing it ever since I was little. I would say like 6 years old, played up 7 and 8. But ever since then, just I enjoyed playing the game. It was just like a safe place for me, and I could just have fun, let everything loose. And as I got older, it just set in stone in me. Just like I know my purpose. I felt like like this is what I'm good at. Let me
Mm-hmm.
give it my all, work as hard as I can, and everything paid off. In my journey. I mean, I would say, God's timing is great. Sometimes you may think you should be starting in high school or on varsity or, the next level as soon as possible. But just trust the timing. The timing was good for me in almost every level, up to high school, to college, to the professional level. Um, it hurt me when I got to the NFL. and I was like the last phone call because of politics. But it happens to everybody. I just didn't let it take me away from the game. So like I said, once I finally got done with like being bounced around in the CFL, I gave Watt a chance. Just being in a dark spot back in St. Louis during the time before I came out, I just cherished the moment. I was happy to be a part of a program again and a team, and I took full advantage of it and capitalized with a championship. So just trying to get the young boys with that same mindset and, bring another one back to Boston.
Mm. Was coaching something you saw yourself doing after your playing career, or was it something that hadn't crossed your mind?
No, it grew on me. I would say me being older, turning 30 and still being healthy and able to play, but just not finding the right team or being paid, what I'm willing to be paid. So it just was like a embracing moment just to see what's in store for me. And I thought like it being my first coaching job, it'll be big to put on my resume and just
Mhm.
go from there.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I mean, if you're saying 30 is old, then I'm ancient. So that's the first thing. So we got to make sure we're okay with that.
No, we on the same page. 30 is definitely not old. It's just I'm getting older, so I'm starting to realize what's out there other than football.
I gotcha. What's been the biggest learning curve for you as a coach? Like, what is it that you maybe needed to learn before you could, pass it on or whatever?
Um, really just how to hold your cool in certain situations. Sometimes when you're a player, you could let your emotions show a little bit more because you're out there on the field and you're playing. But now as a coach, you kind of gotta hold. I wouldn't say hold it back a little bit, but just find a better way to show it. Just by like talking or talking through different things in a calm manner because everybody pick up things differently. You can't just shout out and yell at the person. They might black out or, they might not be been coached that way. So just knowing your personnel and your players, your boys, and how you can critique them and keep them in the game and motivated to make plays.
So as I mentioned before, you were part of the championship team back in 2021. You made quite a few big plays in that championship game. How do you rationalize those moments in your head? How do you look back and realize like, hey, I believe you tipped a ball that was intercepted, and then you recovered the fumble on the goal line in overtime. Two huge moments in the Pirates' history. How do you look back on those now? And, how does a player know to make those moves? Like, where does that kind of knowledge come in that, hey, this is what we got to do because there's just so much stuff going on?
It's just kind of, I would say, just knowing throughout the game, it's them versus you, and you got to make more plays than your opponent in order to, feel like you win. So just with that being stored in your brain and just knowing, like the more plays I can stay locked in and not let go by, the better off I am winning and helping my team win. So with that just being installed in my brain, knowing I'm going into the championship game or playing or whatever, you just preparing yourself to make more plays than your opponent and to be locked in to not let any plays slip by, you know?
Mm,
Because those little plays like that could cost you a game.
mm. Are there any other moments from that kind of playoff run that kind of give you chills, or are those kind of the two main ones that pop up?
Um, I mean, no, it was really the whole season because um we went to Green Bay and we ran into the little shooting in the hotel. It was just a bunch of adversity moments we had with that team, that we went through and fought through.
Mhm.
And it was just kind of installed in us that, we need to win a championship. We've been through a lot. We got to make it make sense. Let's
Now,
finish the script on the story.
yeah, no, I got you. I watched the documentary, at least the two documentaries that were out for the Pirates, and again, you're watching those, you get invested in, obviously, I want you guys to be successful and see those kind of plays being made. It is pretty cool for me to see that, and then be able to talk to you here today, which is great. You still hold 7 regular season records and 7 playoff records for this organization. Now, between you and me, I won't tell anybody. When you're coaching the DBs now, do you still want to hold on to those records, or you do want them to be broken by somebody?
Nah, they always meant to be broken, my man. So like, I'm coaching these boys to be better than me. I'm just trying to put them in teach them the right technique so they could go make the plays and let their athletic abilities take them as far as they'll let them, man. To be honest, if I wanted them to be broken, I'll still be playing.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me?
I
No
gotcha.
matter the money, no matter the money, no nothing. So it's up there for grabs now, my man.
So what are some of the more challenging receivers your unit has faced this season? You guys are 6-6 right now. Obviously, you had gone through a 4-game winning streak. Tough game last time out, but you guys are still in good position for the playoffs and stuff. But what are some of the more challenging receivers or receiving units that you faced this year?
I mean, to be honest, I would have to say the receiving core we just faced. I mean, we just lost some of the 50-50 balls, and which matters. So, yeah, I'm excited to see how we bounce back, and when we do make the playoffs, how we respond when we play them again. I think it'll be a totally different game. We should come on top with some of those 50-50 balls, and we'll have a successful team win. But as far as just roster matchup, I feel like we got the better end of the stick every week,
Mm-hmm.
with our SEC play and some of our higher schools and just the IQ of the game with our boys. So I'm excited to, see what the end of this back end of the season holds for us.
Now, one of the things that a lot of the listeners won't know is how important communication is in that secondary. How do you build that chemistry and communication of knowing where somebody else is going to be, understanding your assignment comparative to somebody else? And again, I realize that the indoor game's a little bit different, but from all aspects of football, how do you build that communication chemistry between the 3, 4, 5 players that are back there?
Man, I tell them it's even more important. It's only a few of y'all, it's only a select few of them back there. So I try to picture it to them as a like pickup basketball. It's you three or you four versus their three and their four. And they got unique route combos and stuff, but it's just pick up basketball and all. Like if you guys communicate with each other, and for instance, in zone, and you just telling the next person in, out, out, out. Look behind you instead of looking at the quarterback and this and that. The communication goes a long way. You know, from indoor to outdoor. So just me trying to get them to come together and know like you out there playing with your brother, and the more that you talk and put your brother in a position, the better off you boys will be.
So what's how would you evaluate the current defensive backs on the team? What sets them apart from other teams?
Mainly, I would just say like IQ and the strength of schedule or strength of talent that these boys played against during their college days. You know, just talent after talent after talent after talent, week after week after week after week. These different schools, Georgia's, the Mizzou's, the Auburn's, just the big schools with the top athletes. I just tell them to just go back into their college days or their glory days when they were in their bag playing against the top boys. Like when you look at these rosters every week, you're not seeing that. So use that as fuel, that you're different. Show that you deserve to be outside the arena and back playing outdoors.
Hmm.
Because a bunch of the players, when they get into arena, they feel like they're caged in now. It's like I'm still playing ball, what I love, but I'm not free. It's kind of like a dog or a lion in a zoo. Like you a little free, you doing what you love, or you playing, enjoying the moment. But then again, in reality, it's like, damn, I could be in the jungle free outdoors,
Hmm.
bigger field, I could open up more you know, and then when you're in arena, it's like, man, I'm in the zoo or I'm in my kennel. I'm in the dog, I'm in the kennel. I can move around a little bit, play,
Hmm.
chase my tail a little bit in circles, but I can't do too much moving.
Right. No, I got you. Now, what is the hurdles that you had to go through with bringing in a head coach? Partway through the season, obviously you had a kind of an interim to start the year, and then Coach Manas came in. Is there a huge difference in kind of what you're doing, or just philosophy wise, or anything?
Um, we still had the talent, even though Manas has came in, but Manas has been a great head coach all around. He has a bunch of years under his belts, some championships. He knows how to run a team, and he brought great structure here into the Pirates, and just installing that you have to take it one day at a time. You have to be invested into your body. You have to be thankful in the play count load that he's taking off on the boys to keep them healthy. Just the little stuff, him being a veteran head coach, and it's been good for us so far.
What would you want your players to remember most about playing under Coach Maxey-Penton?
Really, my main thing is just hearing all of the boys' story and how everybody been treated throughout their journey. Just to know that, like, uh, I'm not like them. I'm not out here trying to ruin anyone's career or worried about what they did 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It's all about now and how you better yourself each and every day and how you better yourself from those moments and how you mature and, just preach to them like, just look at me as a big brother. You can talk to me about anything off the field, whether, mental health issues, anything, I'm here for anything. I'm here to coach you, teach you how to be a better you and be the best you on and off the field.
What's one area of growth that you're proudest of in the defensive backs this season?
Coming to compete, each day they come to practice and they compete, they don't take no days off. I tell those boys every day we had the best receiving core throughout the league. You see the best receivers every day in practice. You come to practice every day and put in your best effort and stack that brick. When you go to game day, it should be easy. You should be licking your chops, ready to make some plays, ready to get some picks, just because you know that you prepared and put in that work.
Um, do you see yourself coaching at higher levels down the line? Is this something that you could, do the rest of your career?
Yes. Right now I'm loving the journey right now and I would love to, get paid as much as I can at the highest level,
Hmm.
wherever it takes me, back at Mizzou or my high school or whatever the journey takes me, one step at a time. And I'm just embracing it. I'm not playing. So, like I said, I'm playing through the boys and my unit, trying to just keep them with that fire and spark and let them know they can accomplish big things.
Now, what are the expectations for the rest of the year? Like I said, you guys are 6-6, still in a position to make the playoffs. Is championship still the mindset for that locker room?
Oh, yeah. Definitely a championship. So we should be going on a run. And we're putting our head down each and every day and we're working. So that's installed in their brains right now. And They seem to be down and on point. So it's just one day at a time. And tomorrow we'll see how they come out and they play. It should be a great bounce back game though for the
Perfect.
rest of the way.
Yep, tomorrow night at home, 7:05 Eastern against the Iowa Barnstormers. And then you guys go on the road for a couple of games, and then the last game of the regular season at home against the Bay Area Panthers. So I very much appreciate your time, sir, and it was great to speak with you. Good luck tomorrow night and the rest of the season. I'm hoping to get down to or get up to Lowell so that way we can do kind of face-to-face interviews with everybody. But again, I'm very grateful for your time.
Yes, I appreciate you too, man, for having me on, and please come out and you can put a face to face and
I would be
get some more stuff going. I appreciate everything.
all right, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, and like I said, good luck tomorrow and good luck the rest of the season.
All right, thank you, sir. You too.
All right, have a good one.
You too, man.
This episode is brought to you by the Massachusetts Pirates of the Indoor Football League. Looking for a family-friendly night out that's anything but boring? Experience the high-octane action of indoor football, where every seat makes you part of the game. With tickets starting as low as $18, even front row seats are affordable. Be a part of the excitement. If a game ball lands your way, you get to keep it. How cool is that? And then after the final whistle, stick around for an autograph session with the players for just $15. Don't miss out. This is football like you've never experienced before. Come see the game in the Songus Arena in Lowell, Massachusetts. And for ticket information, go to www.masspiratesfootball.com. Again, that's masspiratesfootball.com. Welcome back to Loftside Bantr. And a very big thank you to Aairon Maxey-Penton for his time. Great conversation. And again, big part of the championship winning team for that Mass Pirates and now coaching for them. Very, very cool experience to get to talk with him. I mentioned at the top of the show that we'll talk about Bobby Bonilla Day. We're going to do that in a little bit, but just to kind of give people who don't have any idea, there will be a Major League Baseball organization paying somebody $1.2 million in his 70s. He will technically be part of the payroll in his 70s, which is kind of cool. At the same time, it just also shows kind of how things work out in these sports organizations and everything else like that. We'll get into that later on, but for right now, we'll go into the kind of around the horn, if you will. I missed that show on ESPN, just so we're clear. I missed the around the horn. Maybe if I had started this early, I'd be on it. I love to debate people on stuff like that. But anyway, kind of around the horn for a few different things. There will be a couple episodes coming out for the NBA draft and start of free agency and NHL draft in free agency. We'll talk to our experts that we have. Then I can pick up the phone and ask if they want to talk about it. So we'll have them coming in for those types of shows. But we'll kind of do a brief overview of some things that have happened. We'll go ahead and start in the NBA. The New York Knicks are going to hire Mike Brown as head coach, or at least expected to. That's the news that has come out, that they are expected to hire Mike Brown. I still find it a weird situation in New York. Mike Brown hasn't been a desirable candidate in a little while. He's been fired from numerous different positions, high-profile positions as well. He was fired by the Kings in December after a 13-18 start to the season. But, Mike Brown, not a bad guy. Just with the East so wide open, I still don't understand why the Knicks decided to make a change. I don't understand it. You knew leaving the series with the Celtics that they were going to be without Tatum. You were their opponent when he got hurt. You knew that Damian Lillard was, ruptured his Achilles. You obviously didn't know about Indiana and what was going to happen there. If you had just said, hey, you know what, you've done the best job, Mr. Tom Thibodeau, in 25 years for this franchise. Let's give you another year and see what happens. This is the concerns we have. This is where we're at. This is where we want to be. But they didn't do that. They pulled the trigger as quickly as they possibly could. So, again, it is what it is. But Mike Brown looks like it's going to be the new head coach for the New York Knicks. The NBA has adjusted Greg Popovich's career record as a head coach. He missed 77 games last year due to his illness. They removed all 77 games from his record and credited those wins and losses to new Spurs head coach Mitch Johnson, which makes sense. I mean, he didn't coach all of last year, though he was technically the head coach and then has since retired, obviously. But Greg Popovich has a final record in the NBA of 1,390 and 824. All of this makes sense. Mitch Johnson coached last year. The 32 and 45 record that they had for those 77 games obviously makes Greg Popovich's record look a little bit better, at least winning percentage-wise, but obviously Hall of Fame head coach. This isn't unprecedented for the NBA to adjust a win-loss total. The NBA made a similar decision for the Lakers in the 79-80 season with Jack McKinney, who was the head coach and was seriously injured in a bicycle accident, which led to Paul Westhead taking over on an interim basis. Westhead was eventually hired as the head coach. The NBA credits McKinney to a 10-4 record that season, with Westhead going 50-18. The Showtime HBO series, or the name of it is not called Showtime, it's called Winning Time, and it's a pretty good series where you get to see kind of the personalities kind of being acted out, talking about Magic Johnson getting to the Lakers and the Lakers going on from them. They cover this kind of situation as well in that series. The Milwaukee Bucks have made quite a few questionable moves, I guess. They waived Damian Lillard. He's still owed quite a bit of money, but they're stretching what they owe him from his remaining 2 years to 5 years. So there's a stretch provision in the CBA that says you can take what, if you waive somebody, you can spread it out over X amount of time, whatever it is. Damian Lillard is obviously rehabbing from a torn Achilles, one of the many that happened last year in the NBA. So he'll be able to rehab and then come back and make money from another organization while still being paid $22.5 million. Again, a lot of that's going around nowadays where you don't really have to do anything to get paid millions and millions of dollars as a sports franchise. What didn't make sense was them doing that and then going out and signing Miles Turner, which I like the signing of Miles Turner. Is it something that's going to keep Giannis happy there in Milwaukee? I don't know. But Miles Turner had spent 10 years with the Indiana Pacers, was just in the finals, was their longest serving player, and now he's on their rival Milwaukee Bucks. So that's one of the big moves that has kind of happened in the NBA so far. Duncan Robinson gets a sign and trade deal to go from Miami. He's their all-time leading three-point shooter as far as makes are made. And he got traded to the Detroit Pistons and agreed to a 3-year, $48 million deal. So Duncan Robinson will be in a new uniform next year as well. Again, we're going to go into a lot of what we like, don't like with some of the experts coming up in a few days, and I'll have that recorded out early next week. So I won't go too far into it. In the NHL, big news was that Mitch Marner left the Toronto Maple Leafs and went to the Vegas Golden Knights, which was predicted on this show as well. That's probably where he's going to end up. Sign and trade for that. He gets $12 million a year. The interesting thing was during his introductory press conference is that he basically said that he had talked to the Vegas Golden Knights during the Four Nations break, and that he had kind of known then that that's where he's probably going to go. So he had checked out for a while, which I can assure you everybody in Toronto fucking hated. But he did do that. So there are just some things that you probably shouldn't say in front of other people. And unfortunately, he did. So it seems as if he kind of knew he was leaving by halfway through this season. Whether that changed how he played in the playoffs or anything else like that, have no idea. All I can tell you is he knew that he wasn't going to be in Toronto next year. And it's kind of a dick move, to be honest with you. To still go out and you know, oh, I'm playing for Toronto, I'm a Toronto Maple Leaf, oh, we'll see what happens, You already knew. You had the conversations. And I'm not going to get into the whole tampering thing because, frankly, I don't think you're going to be able to ever stop tampering from one team to a player or anything else. So what's the point of even going into it? It's not going to change anything once a player signs on the dotted line anywhere. You just want the other team to be punished and lose assets, whether that's a draft pick or whatever the case may be. Never going to happen. Some interesting NFL news. The Miami Dolphins and the Pittsburgh Steelers completed a trade, which is a rare thing to begin with in the NFL. Obviously, around draft time, you trade draft picks and stuff like that, but player-for-player type stuff doesn't happen a ton in the NFL. So the Dolphins are sending Jalen Ramsey, their cornerback, that for a while was probably the best corner in the league. He hasn't quite been there. His injuries and everything else obviously play their part. But Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith, who was a former New England Patriot, and I thought was going to be a big thing here in New England. I thought he was going to really, really be the next big, receiving tight end, big dude that can run over people. Nope, didn't work out. Obviously, those teams weren't the greatest, so he obviously struggled for lack of that. But they also brought in Hunter Henry at the same time. I digress. Miami Dolphins have agreed to trade three-time All-Pro cornerback Jalen Ramsey and tight end Jonnu Smith, as I mentioned, to the Pittsburgh Steelers in exchange for three-time All-Pro safety Minkah Fitzpatrick and a pick swap. So I believe a 7th and a 5th round pick get swapped. This is an interesting move simply because Minkah Fitzpatrick was drafted by the Dolphins and was traded to the Steelers for a first-round pick at one point in time. This was around the time that the Dolphins were kind of starting to get out of that, shitty team build type thing. They were looking for draft picks. They were looking for all this different stuff. So it's interesting that that's the trade. It's interesting for a couple of things because the Steelers are adding older guys to their roster to go around Aaron Rodgers. Now, Jalen Ramsey's 30, so I wouldn't necessarily call that old comparative to. But Jalen Ramsey had a very down year last year for having played all 17 games for Miami. He had 60 tackles, 39 of them were solo, 1 sack, 2 interceptions. He obviously, his career high in a season was 4. So, it's not like he's blowing the doors off of, grabbing a bunch of interceptions and then that's crazy. They don't throw at him a lot. And it seemed as if Miami had a down year with the injury to Tua and everything else like that. The defense gets tired, all that fun stuff. But the biggest part of all of this, to me, is the players that they're adding, thinking that this is going to help them make one run. I don't think Aaron Rodgers helps the Steelers get any better. I don't think Jalen Ramsey helps the Steelers get any better. I don't think Jonnu Smith makes the Steelers any better. And with Pat Freiermuth there, I don't know how Jonnu Smith kind of fits into all this. But that still remains to be seen with that offense and everything else. Like, they obviously have the coaching. They obviously have the pedigree as far as being the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I don't foresee them being they're a 500 team. They're a 500 team. And unless they prove me wrong, I'm going to say that up until the last week of the season. They're a 500 team. The other aspect that nobody's talking about is last year for the Steelers, there was a comment made by Cameron Hayward last year during the season saying, it's very frustrating to have 10 guys doing one thing and one guy doing another. And there was a lot of stuff that came out from that. Back and forth, this and that, who it could be. Nobody really ever truly named somebody. But then some people were kind of breaking it down that it's Minkah Fitzpatrick. And Minkah Fitzpatrick ends up getting traded in the offseason. Seems kind of weird, doesn't it? For a defense that really wasn't too bad. But it's one of those things that, Cameron Hayward has said a few things. He's also said he didn't really give a shit if Aaron Rodgers came because they were going to work no matter what. And Aaron Rodgers showed up, and now we had to re-clarify, quote unquote, what he was saying. So it's just interesting to me that that's kind of the direction that all these comments tend to go when those things work out that way. But I think this kind of proves a little bit that it has been Minkah Fitzpatrick that was kind of the guy kind of free roaming, doing his own thing and everything else during a tough season for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which they still made the playoffs, I believe. Got out-bounced in the first round, which is typically how it goes. they've been 500 or first round of the playoffs, and that's been about it. They've been average. And that was kind of the whole thing with, head coach Mike Tomlin, that he hasn't been able to win as of recently. Obviously, he's a Super Bowl winning head coach, but, they've kind of floundered towards the average part of the NFL. And that's not what the Steelers normally expect. So I think he was given this year to kind of figure everything out with Aaron Rodgers, have a legitimate quarterback. I mean, you had Russell Wilson last year, but again, Russell Wilson's kind of on that twilight of his career. Not that Aaron Rodgers isn't, but this seems to be the move that everybody seems to be happy with. You bring in Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, DK Metcalf. They've had a decent offseason. TJ Watt obviously wants a new contract, hasn't been able to get it, so now they're looking to possibly trade him. So a lot of turnover in Pittsburgh, but we'll see how that shakes out during the season. As I mentioned, I don't think they're going to be any different from 500. I believe that's probably where they're going to be. Maybe they make the playoffs, but I don't think they're getting any further than they have the last few years. This is not a Super Bowl contender. Let's put it that way. Miami gets back a guy that they're used to or they're familiar with, and maybe he shapes up a little bit if he was really the problem on that defense in Pittsburgh. So we'll see what happens with that. It's just interesting. It's interesting series of events that have happened for players that were kind of mentioned in things, or, people were beating around the bush for, and now you're sending a guy back to the team that drafted him and knows about him because, I think his value went plummeted because of the rumors of this or whatever. Some other miscellaneous news from everything. The MLB trade deadline is coming up at the end of the month. The Red Sox apparently have the go-ahead to spend all this money to go get who they need, allegedly. They obviously got rid of the Rafi Devers contract, so, they're hovering right around that time that this is whether they're going to, be sellers or buyers. And they won today, 11-2 over the Nationals. They're 44-45. As of right now, in these standings, we're talking 6 games behind the Toronto Blue Jays, and I didn't stutter on that. They've taken over first place from the New York Yankees, who are a game back. Same thing with the Tampa Bay Rays, are a game back. The Red Sox sit 6 games back, and then the Baltimore Orioles at the bottom of the division. As far as the wild card, they are 2 games back of a wild card spot. But you have the Mariners right there, the Angels right there, the Texas Rangers right there, the Minnesota Twins right there, the Guardians right there, the Royals right there. All those teams are within 4 or 4.5 games of the wild card spot. They're all going to be either competing for, or they're either just going to, they're all going to be competing for it. At least for right now, in this time bubble that we're in, right now, this second, all those teams are competing for one of the wild card spots. Obviously, the Yankees and the Rays are the ones that are holding on to the spots right now, but we're talking about a half dozen teams that are probably going to be buying something at the deadline. Whether it's relievers, which you need in Boston, whether it's lineup help, specifically left or right-handed. Again, you need lineup help if you're here in Boston. I was in this seat last week, ready to just go off on the Red Sox and go, I can't believe the crap that we're trotting out there. I can't believe the talent around this team that is just not producing. I can't believe the front office is just giving up. I can't believe the ownership won't spend money. Like, there's a lot of different things that I was ready to go in on that I said, well, let's hold on. We're halfway through the season. Dave and I talked about it on one of the episodes. And I said, I understand a good couple of weeks puts you in a good spot to be a playoff team. But we're halfway through a season. You know who you are. You're going to be roughly a 500 team. Again, you have a good week or two. Maybe you become 10 games over 500 at the end of the year, and maybe that's good enough. Who knows? But there's teams here that are going to buy and not make the playoffs and waste resources, whether that's minor league help, draft picks, young talent, whatever the case may be. Are the Red Sox going to be one of them? We don't know. Probably not, because they're scared to give away chips sometimes. You did it for Garrett Crochet. You did it for a couple of other guys you have on the roster. But, I mean, for the most part, this team still has a decent minor league system right now. They have some of the young guys up. The guys like Lucas Giolito, the guys like, Abraham Toro has come up and played better than anybody thought he probably would. Carlos Navarez, obviously the rookie, has played better. You still have injuries. You still have players not producing at the level that we know they can. And then you have guys that have come in and played much better with you than they did with another team. Jorge Alcala came over from Minnesota and has pitched well for you where he was an 8 ERA for Minnesota. Now, what has he done for you? I mean, he's pitched in 7 games. He has an ERA of 1.42. All right, so he's given up 1 run in 6 1/3 innings. Again, small sample size, but okay. He's at least come in and done that. So where this team goes and what they do depends on a few factors. And I'm worried that they're not going to be the buyers at the deadline like they said. Sam Kennedy has come out and said idiotic things to get a fan base rallied behind him, and then they've done the complete opposite. They were going to put the pedal to the metal a couple of years ago. They never went out and got anybody. Now this year, they have the go-ahead to go buy as many people, quote-unquote, or get as many people and spend what they need to get players to help this team. The team still needs a lot of work. I don't think a few pieces, even if they're rentals, are going to do you all that much good. So let's see. I'm going to give them a little bit more time, but one of these episodes, when we know that they're going to either not make the playoffs or they're selling off pieces or they're whatever, one of these days you're going to hear an episode where I'm angry because I'm sick of it. So I'll pump the brakes right now and let's see what happens. But did anybody see this most anticipated first pitch of a baseball game? The color commentator and the announcer were going crazy over this. Byron Buxton of the Minnesota Twins is a 60% first pitch swing player throughout his career. And Tarek Skubal, who's one of the best pitchers in the league, was throwing a first pitch fastball every game he started in his major league career. And they were going back and forth like, this is, he's going to throw a fastball. We're going to see where he places it, but Byron Buxton's going to swing at it. Oh, this is what it's going to be. This is what it's going to be. And they talked about it, and they talked about it, and they talked about it ad nauseum as he's warming up, as Skubal's warming up, everything else like that. Skubal, if I didn't mention, Detroit Tiger. The Detroit Tigers have looked great this year. And he ended up throwing a first pitch changeup. And it was the first time he's ever done it in that career. Byron Buxton didn't swing out with the ball. And the next pitch wasn't a fastball either. So it was 5 minutes of these announcers going off of what's going to happen. Oh my God, I can't wait for this. I can't believe this. You got to check out the clip, and maybe I'll try to find one that I can insert here. But, it was one of those things that it just was so focused on, and then just nothing happened from it. Not a thing. And that's baseball kind of in a nutshell sometimes, because numbers only do so much for you. It's whether you can put the bat on the ball and whether you can get the ball over the plate. That's it. Those are the two things that really are the main factors in baseball.
First pitch of a game, Tarek Skubal has always thrown a fastball, and Byron Buxton swings at the first pitch of the game 60% of the time.
I am so excited for this first pitch. As this said, every single time Skubal has ever pitched in the regular season, he started off with a fastball, and that's 60% for Buxton, if you want context. That is the most of any leadoff guy leading off a game, and he did it last night. He got a first pitch fastball from Casey Mize. He went after it. He lined a single to left field. And I know that Buxton knows this number, so I cannot wait to see what he's going to do here.
Here we go. Most anticipated first pitch. Sunday Night Baseball Statcast history. A change-up! No way!
I did it.
No!
He's laughing.
So there you have it. How exciting was that, right? With that said, also, Joey Chestnut spent a year out from the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest and then proceeded to eat 71 hot dogs today to win, again, the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest, which happens every year on 4th of July. I don't think I eat 71 hot dogs a year, let alone in one sitting. It's not an event I can watch. It's not an event I can watch. So for all of you that spend the time to watch that, more power to you. But it is gross to me. I cannot watch them dunking hot dogs into water, stuffing them in their mouths, and just doing that. It is not an event for me. So Loftside Bantr is not a Nathan's hot dog eating contest podcast. Sorry to tell you. I probably lose out on any sponsor from Nathan's. I'm not saying Nathan hot dogs are gross. I just think the event itself and watching it is not something for my eyes. Right? Shifting gears, since we're here at the beginning of July. So as of this recording, we have Bobby Bonilla Day, which is every July 1st and will be till 2035. July 1st will be known as Bobby Bonilla Day for a lot of different people. For the time being, I'm going to explain to the people who don't know what Bobby Bonilla Day is. It's an annual celebration for all Major League Baseball fans for one of the strangest deals that went down in Major League Baseball history. Bobby Bonilla was a six-time All-Star who played his last game in 2001. So we're talking about this 24 years after the fact that he played his last game. He receives a check every July 1st from the New York Mets for $1.19 million. For all intents and purposes, we'll call it 1.2. $1.2 million. I'll give you the exact amount in a second, but that was a result of a decision from 25 years ago to delay paying the $5.9 million they owed him. Now, they've been paying this every year since 2011. And if you're as good at math as I am, you're going to realize that $1.2 million a year from 2011 to 2035 equals a hell of a lot more than $5.9 million. And you'd be right. Looking to get rid of Bonilla after the 1999 season, the Mets opted to defer his payments with 8% interest, giving him $1,193,248.20, because you can't forget the 20 cents. Annually on July 1st from 2011 to 2035, like I said, adding up to nearly $30 million. And if it isn't a microcosm of the Mets organization as a whole, it's just one of those situations that, hey, a lot of teams are doing this now. What you're finding out from a lot of teams, especially like the Dodgers have done it more recently, you've looked at the Milwaukee Bucks, who just cut Damian Lillard, are going to defer his payments over 5 years to go against the cap in 5 years instead of paying it all out at once. So, I mean, this is not something that's new or something that hasn't happened before in the past. But when reached to talk about this, Bonilla said, "It's bigger than my birthday. When July 1st comes, I get text all day long, a couple of days after, maybe a couple of days before. Everybody just seems to love the day and have fun with it. It's become a huge thing." So, again, it's funny to me that $1.2 million is allocated to the Mets payroll for a guy that hasn't played in 24 years, or almost 25 years now. There'll be plenty of other deferred contracts and stuff like that. Bonilla's agent, Dennis Gilbert, told USA Today in an interview in 2023, but for a guy to be paid that long into his life, into his 70s, Bobby Bonilla is going to be 70 years old when he finally gets done with all this. I don't think we'll ever see that again. I just, a 70-year-old man is on the Mets payroll at one point in time in history. So the contract itself, Bonilla signed a 4-year, $23.3 million contract with the Marlins prior to the 1997 season. He helped them win their first World Series that year, but he was traded to the Dodgers the year after, which was the famous Marlins fire sale, which saw a lot of really good players leave right after they won the World Series. Now, I'm not saying all the players I'm about to list left immediately afterwards, but this team had Livan Hernandez, Kevin Brown, Rob Nen out of the bullpen, Antonio Alfonseca, Charles Johnson was their catcher, Jeff Conine at first base, Craig Counsell at second base, Edgar Renteria, who played for the Red Sox at one point, shortstop, Bobby Bonilla was a third baseman. They had Moises Alou, Gary Sheffield, Mark Kotze. Those were all players that stuck around for a very long time and were very successful in the major leagues. So after Marlins World Series 1997, he's part of the Dodgers for 1998. Before the 1999 season, the Dodgers traded Bonilla to the Mets. The Mets, who were looking for a new right fielder at the time, assumed his 2 years and $11.65 million salary still left. He was 36 years old at this time, and Bonilla played just 60 games for the 1999 Mets, and he was batting 160, so not great. He's probably obviously at the tail end of his career. He was booed by fans. He was constantly clashing with manager Bobby Valentine over his playing time. He eventually was benched. The Mets released Bonilla after the 1999 season and still owed him $5.9 million, as mentioned before, for 2000. The team worked with Bonilla's agent, like I said, his name was Dennis Gilbert, to defer the $5.9 million with 8% interest to an annual payment of $1.2 million. We'll just say 1.2 on July 1st. And again, the time frame 2011 to 2035. It's pretty funny how this thing is blown up because Shohei Ohtani has a historic $700 million deal with $680 million of that deferred. So the Dodgers are going to be paying on that for a very, very long time. The particulars of that are he's being paid $2 million annually for the next 10 years, so through 2033. So Ohtani signed this in 2023. So through 2033, he's getting $2 million a year. And then for the next 10 years after that, till 2043, he's going to be paid, and I'm not going to stutter, $68 million a year. Shohei Ohtani is 30 years old this year. We still have 8 years to go, so he'll be 38 years old and still have $680 million to be paid to him. So $68 million a year. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of move somewhere along the lines to figure out all of this stuff. Like I'm not dumb enough to think that they're just going to be paying $68 million to somebody over 40 to be almost 50 years old. But again, I digress on that because that's not the point of today. The point of today is Bobby Bonilla. The final payday, as mentioned, will be July 1st, 2035 for Bobby Bonilla. Will be 72 years old. He will be 72 years old. So, again, I will never fault anybody for making their money or to be making $1.2 million a year to do nothing. I say if you can get the money, get the money. But just so when everybody hears it going back and forth and when people are listening to it, this is Bobby Bonilla Day. And it is unreal that he's still being paid this stuff. But, I mean, we're talking $5 million. Again, the Shohei Ohtani thing is going to be a lot different when that comes up. Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman both deferred payments as well. So the Dodgers have a lot of work to do. And again, they're in their win now mode. They have the best team in baseball with the most talent and everything else. So we'll see how that all shakes out in the future. Hopefully I still have a show then. But, for the time being, like I said, happy Bobby Bonilla Day. And after all that, what July 1st means to some people in the world and stuff like that, I obviously want to wish everybody a happy 4th of July. Enjoy the time out of work. Relax. Have a great cookout. Watch some fireworks. Obviously, the holiday means a lot more than that deep down. And I'm not going to get into all the show will never be political. But, enjoy that time. Use it for you. Hang out with friends and family. Hopefully nice weather for everybody. And no matter where you are, good morning, good evening, good night, whatever it is, We'll see you the next time here on Loftside Bantr.